Our next questioner will be our Deputy Leader, Mike Gianaris.
Thank you, Judge. Our time is limited, so I'm going to get right to it. There's been significant coverage in the news of the security detail provided to the former Chief Judge. Who approved that?
Our Department of Public Safety makes the determination as to whether or not security is required.
But who? Can you give me a name? Who approved that security detail?
Well, we have a chief. Our chief is Michael Magliano. There are several other chiefs who are involved. The chief of the Court of Appeals also there's a security individual there, Chief Ramos.
I understand. I'm not going to mean to interrupt you, but I do have a very limited amount of time, so I'm going to get to it. What I'm trying to get is, who is the final decision maker? Is it Mr. Magliano? Is it yourself? Obviously, you've only been there a couple of months, but your predecessor? Is it the chief judge or the acting chief? Who made that decision?
The decision is made by the Department of Public Safety, and it may be approved by the chief administrative judge, but it's made by the Department of Public Safety.
Right, but ultimately the chief administrative judge or the acting chief can approve or deny that recommendation.
Yes, but we very often follow their recommendation because they are the experts in that area.
Thank you. Is that security detail still ongoing?
Senator, I unfortunately can't answer that, but what I can tell you is this.
Why not?
Because I think that would put the former chief judge in grave danger.
On what basis does a former employee have any right to security provided by the Office of Court Administration?
Well, let me give you a little bit of background. I think this is something that all of you are probably very interested to hear. I think there's been a tremendous amount of misinformation that's been given to all of you as well as the public at large with regard to what exactly happened. The former chief, in 2016, when she joined the Court of Appeals, she was the DA of Westchester County, and there had been threats against her life, which necessitated a security detail at that point. So in 2016, there was an assessment done by the Department of Public Safety, and they made the determination that she required security, but at that point, it wasn't 24-hour security. So,
Judge, if I may, and I want to hear your answer in full, but maybe I could ask the chair to not count this lengthy explanation against my time. Thank you. No, I understand, but I have one more round of questions beyond this. I'm sorry, Judge, please continue.
So in 2018, so I also should indicate that there have been over 50 either inappropriate communications or judicial threats that have been investigated by our Department of Public Safety against the former chief judge. So in 2018, when she was at her vacation home, an individual showed up. She was at breakfast with her husband. An individual showed up at the table next to her. He was a litigant who was really irate, approached her, and when there was an investigation done, it was determined that he had stalked her and had come out to not just follow her around so that he could find out where she was having breakfast. Okay, thank
Judge,
you.
if I may just, because I understand
I just wanted to give the background so that everyone understands, because I think that everyone is very interested to hear this. So in 2018, he came out to her home, and came out to where she had her vacation home, and he was standing in the middle of the street screaming, "Where's Janet? I need to see Janet," at the top of his lungs. And when an investigation was done, and it was determined that he had been following her to her dry cleaner, he had followed her to this restaurant, and that he had been hiding out with a hat on and
Judge,
out in the parking lot.
Again, I think we get the point. You're talking about
Well, I did want to just give the full, because I think that the problem here.
But Judge,
Senator,
if I may, my question was, on what basis does a former employee get this protection from the OCA? If someone is under threat, law enforcement has protocols for any New Yorker, particularly prominent New Yorkers who are under threat. Why is the OCA making a decision for someone who no longer is a member of the judiciary to receive this kind of protection?
No,
Never mind that you're citing incidents 5 and 7 years ago without telling us whether it's still an ongoing threat or whether it's necessary.
I understand, Senator. So I mean, I just want everyone to understand the background of where this all came from, because these were ongoing and continuing threats. And then in 2020, I think everyone is well aware of what happened with Judge Salas's son, and that individual also had the chief judge's photo in his car,
Judge,
as
you're
well
not
as her
answering my
address.
question
No,
with
but
respect.
I am, Senator. I want to give you the full picture so that you understand why this occurred. And then in 2021, there was another threat to her entire family. The individual said he was going to kill her and her entire family. And so these threats were ongoing and they were escalating. And at various points, there was an assessment done of her security so that at each stage, if additional security was required, there was additional security. And after Judge Salas's son was killed and that individual had her photo and her address in his car, that's when the state police did an assessment. And when the state police did their assessment, they joined the chief judge's detail. And so, as I said, in 2021, her entire family was threatened. You know, there was a threat to kill her and her entire family. And so when she retired in 2020, at that point, there was, the threat hadn't subsided. The threats continued because, as I said, I'm talking about the specific threats, but I'm not talking about the other 47.
Judge, you've not
Senator,
answered my
I'm
question.
going to have to cut you off.
And I'll just,
I'm
if I could,
sorry.
I barely have had the chance to ask any questions.
know,
She's
but we gave you the
filibustering like a very
deference beyond
effective
the
legislator. Okay, I'll move on from that one. Give me one more minute if I may, Madam Chair.
But
No,
Senator,
I'm sorry.
No.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Okay.
Mike.
Sorry, Mike.
I will just say this in closing, that the court system has a real problem. In just the few minutes I've been here, they have provided no answers to questions of who receives training, what the training materials are, what the vote for acting chief was, whether there's still an ongoing expense of public resources for the safety of former judges. I don't know if you saw the story from Frank Runyon in Law 360 today.
Time's up.
But in fact, there is a serious corruption problem within the Court of Appeals where judges are receiving public
Okay.
benefits and not reporting them.
No, it's all right.
Mike,
I-
your time is
They're
up.
asking for $2.5 billion. I think that's a
Michael.
serious
Thank you.
problem, Judge.
Sorry.